MPS Secondary School welcomes you in statewide online lecture of BNC. So, as if we have started our first chapter of our basic concept in geometry. So, in last two lectures, we have completed our practice set 1.1 and practice set 1.2. Today, we are going to see the basics related to practice set 1.2. And what is the basics for what? For it. You can see you can open your textbook and see there after practice set 1.2 this part comes there, and that is completely a theoretical part which proves you to how we are going to prove all the theorems, where these theorems came from, why they are called as theorems, or what actually theorems is, proof is, or the postulates or the properties are there. Okay, so all that things we are going to see here. So first is the in which first is conditional statement and converse. Conditional statement. What is conditional statement? Means any statement which has some conditions or some limitations, that is called as conditional statement, and its converse. Converse means its opposite. Okay. Whatever the statement is given, whatever the condition is given to that statement, if we reverse that statement, then it is called as converse. So what is conditional statement and what is converse, we will see in the below paragraph. Okay, the statements which can be written in the if then form are called conditional statements. Okay, so whatever the statements are there which are written in if then form, then they are called as conditional statement. Means if such is there, then such will happen. Okay, like this. The part of the statement following if is called the antecedent, and the part following then is called the consequent. Means after if, whatever written is there, that is called as antecedent. See, I have bold the letter antecedent and underline also. So whatever the part after if will come, that is called as antecedent, and whatever the part after then is there, that is called as consequent. Why I am telling this? Because while finding converse, whenever we are finding converse of any statement, we reverse this antecedent and consequent. We reverse the antecedent and consequent so that we get the converse of the given statement. So this is very important. Now, if then in your English grammar is also used many of the times, if then this part, this type of grammar is also in grammar is also used there. So there it is also, if you can compare, the same part is there. Okay, if uh, some statement is there, then such will happen. Okay, like this. So this is what your conditional statement. If then if it is there in the statement given, whatever the statement is, and if there is a if and then that statement is called as conditional statement. Now we will see the next example for this. Okay, now whatever in English there are different examples. Now these examples are related to our maths. Whatever the examples we are taking here, we will take related to maths. For example, consider the statement. Means simple statement is given. Okay, simple statement what is given to us: the diagonal of a rhombus are perpendicular bisector of each other. This is the property of rhombus which we have learned already in last year. Also, I have told you in our revision part that the diagonals of rhombus are perpendicular bisector of each other. If you want to see the example, you can see here also. Rhombus property. Whatever the diagonals are there, it cuts the diagonals other each other diagonal at perpendicular bisector. Means they form an angle of 90 degree between both of them, and which cuts the segment. Whatever the diagonal is there, it bisects. Means what? It divides the segment into two equal parts. Whatever the segments are there, it divides into two equal parts. So this is a simple statement. Okay, the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular bisector of each other. This is a simple statement. Now we have to put it in conditional statement, or how we are going to write down this statement in conditional form. The statement can be written in the conditional form as, on in bold letters I have written there, if the given quadrilateral is a rhombus, okay, if the given quadrilateral is a rhombus, then its diagonals are perpendicular bisector of each other. Jo whatever the quadrilateral is given to us, okay, whatever the quadrilateral is given to us, if it is rhombus, then what we will say, that the diagonals of the rhombus are perpendicular bisector of each other. So this is the conditional. How we are going to put a simple statement into conditional statement, if and then. After the if, whatever the part comes, that is called as antecedent, and then ke baad mein jo aata hai, whatever the part after then is there, that we will call as consequent. Understood? This is very simple and interesting example to understand what is your conditional statement, if and then. Most of your theorems and properties are in conditional statement form. If you see any of the theorem previously you have seen, or in this year if you see any of the theorem or the property, most of the theorem and property will come in conditional statement form, if and then, if and then, like this. Okay, so this was the example of conditional statement, and here I have shown you the diagram of rhombus. This is rhombus. All sides are equal, they are parallel to each other, and diagonal bisects each other. Diagonals are perpendicular bisector of each other. That is the most important property of rhombus. Now next, what is the converse of that? Okay, that we are going to see. If the antecedent and consequent in a given conditional statement are interchanged. Okay, see, I have told you that if के बाद में आता है antecedent, then के बाद में आता है consequent, and if we interchange antecedent and consequent, then whatever the statement we get, that is called the converse of the given statement. That is what the converse of the given statement. Just change antecedent and consequent, then we will say, then whatever the statement is formed, that we will say as it is the converse of the given conditional statement or given statement. Okay, if a conditional statement is true, its converse is not necessarily true. Means sometimes what happens ki, if whatever the conditional statement is given to us, that is true, but its converse, when we make its converse, it's not necessarily to be true. वो true चाहिए, मतलब it happens, it doesn't, it is not necessary all the time. So how it happens, we will see by using an example. Okay, so what is the conditional statement given to us? First, conditional statement is given if a quadrilateral is a rhombus. Okay, the same example, then its diagonals are perpendicular bisector of each other. This is the conditional statement we have seen, that if a quadrilateral is rhombus, then its diagonals are perpendicular bisector of each other. Then what is its converse? What will be the converse? Just interchange antecedent and consequent. What is the consequent here? Its diagonals are perpendicular bisector of each other. This is the consequent. And what is the antecedent? A quadrilateral is a rhombus. Interchange them. Interchange karenge to what will happen? The converse. If the diagonals of a quadrilateral are perpendicular bisector of each other, then it is a rhombus. See how much part we have covered there. Then after then, whatever the part was there, that we have kept after if. Okay, we have kept whatever the consequent was there in conditional statement, that here in converse we have taken at antecedent, and whatever the antecedent was there, that we took to the consequent, like this. So the statement changes completely. If the diagonals of a quadrilateral are perpendicular bisector of each other, then it is a rhombus. Okay, so this conditional statement was given, and we have written its converse also, and both the statement are true. Both the statement here we have given that are true, the conditional statement and the converse. Matlab quadrilateral, if a quadrilateral is rhombus, then rhombus properties are what? The diagonals are perpendicular bisector of each other. And if the diagonals of a quadrilateral are perpendicular bisector of each other, then what we will say? Then that is what your a rhombus, then it is a rhombus. So both the conditional statement and its converse, both are true here. Now, when we change example whose converse is not true, then how or which kind of examples will come when the converse is not necessarily true? The next we are going to see here. Now consider the following example. The example is given: if a number is a prime number, then it is even or odd. Now this is the conditional statement. If a number is prime number, what are the prime numbers? Prime numbers are those numbers which are divisible by 1 and itself. And 1 and itself, those are prime numbers. 1 is not prime, we start by 2. So 2 is a prime number which is only even prime number. Okay, afterwards we get 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, like this numbers. Okay, then what is the conditional statement given to us? If a number is a prime number, then it is even or odd. Okay, if a number is given to us, prime number is given to us, then it will be either even or odd. Barabar? Even number is only one, that is 2. We know that. After 2 there is no even number, but they have taken it in common that it either it should be even or odd. Okay, so this is the conditional statement given to us. This is true, that either it is prime number. If we take any prime number, then it is either even or either odd. But what is its converse? Just change the antecedent and consequent. Okay, if a number is even or odd, then it is a prime number. Now, is this statement true for all the examples? No. This statement or this converse is not true for all the examples, because if we take any number, then it is not necessarily a prime number. Suppose I have take 10 number. 10 is an even number, but 10 is not a prime number. So here converse is not true, because what is shown in what is written in converse, if a number is even or odd. Okay, any number if we take, it is either even or odd, then it is a prime number. Is it necessary for all the examples? No. Just if right now I have told you, just if we take example of 10 number, if we take 10 number, it is an even number, so antecedent is true, that if we have taken any number, that is 10 number. But what is the consequent saying to us? The consequent is saying that it should be a prime number, but 10 is not a prime number. So the converse, whatever the converse is given, that converse is not true. Okay, so whenever you are going to say about any converse, it should not be necessarily true all the time. Okay, when if you are going to tell that just find the converse of the given statement, then you have to just find out the converse. You don't have to think that whether it is true or false. Okay, that we don't have to think. What part we have to do, that you have to find the converse of the given statement, that much only. In this example, the statement is true. Okay, barabar. The conditional statement is true, but its converse is false. Whatever the converse is given to us, that is false. Okay. Now we will come to the most important part of the geometry, and which is the proofs. What are proofs? What are theorems? What are properties? What are postulates? Where they came from, or why we are going to use all these things? So that is what given to you in this paragraph. Listen it carefully. This is very important and interesting part uh, for your study purpose, because many of the times what happens, that students don't understand why these theorems are there, why these proofs are there, but this is what the reason behind it. Okay, now what is first given to us? We have studied many properties of angles, triangles and quadrilaterals through activities, right? If how we are going to find out angles, I have shown you many of the examples in our day-to-day life, that shows the examples of different angles, triangles and quadrilaterals. Okay, so through activities we have learned about its properties also. Okay, in this standard we are going to look at the subject of geometry with different point of view, okay, which was originated by the Greek mathematician Euclid. So Euclid is a Greek mathematician who invented or who gave us so much important statements which were very very useful or which were very very important at that era where there was no uh, means what, at that time there was no one knows what about maths and theorems and all these things. At that era he proved so many theorems and so many postulates and so many properties of each and everything. Right now we, if we google anything, we get everything, but where this google get from? They get from all these scientists. So Euclid was a Greek mathematician, great mathematician, who lived in the 3rd century of Christian era. Okay, he gathered the knowledge of geometry prevailing at his time and streamlined it. Okay, usko मैं prevailing and his time and streamlined it. Okay, he invented all that things and properly set up all the properties and all the theorems and everything. He took it for granted some self-evident geometrical statements which were accepted by all and called them postulates. Okay, whatever the facts and whatever the statements he shown to all the other scientists or other mathematicians that were accepted by all the peoples, that were accepted by all the peoples, and they called them as postulates. He showed that on the basis of postulates some more properties can be proved logically. On that basis of postulate, whatever the postulates he proved there, on the basis of that more properties can be proved logically. Logically means what? There were some steps and proper way of answering, and by using that steps and proper way of answering, you'll get your answer. And the process of all these things, properties proved logically, are called theorems. Whatever the properties were there, if we prove them logically by using proper angles and values and everything, that if we proved properly by using logical statements, then that process of writing all that answer is called as theorem. Okay, that process of finding all that things is was called as theorems. Okay, and that is called as theorems. Some of Euclid's postulates are given below. Some postulates here are given below. First is there are infinite lines passing through a point. We know that if a point we have drawn, we can draw infinite lines. But now we know all these things. But the ancient era where there was no light or any other possibilities, at that era he invented all these things, and that was a very big success at that time. So all these things which we know right now very easily, that were inventions at that time. Okay, so the first one is there are infinite lines passing through a point. Second, there is one and only one line passing through 2 points. Obviously, if we draw 2 points anywhere on the plane and we join them, then there is only one line which will pass between that 2 points. Not any other line or any different line will pass through it. Okay. A circle of given radius can be drawn taking all points at its center. Okay, taking any point as its center, right? If we can take any point and draw a circle by using any radius, then only we can take any point as a center of any circle, like this. All right angles are congruent with each other. Obviously, all right angles means what? How much they are? They are 90 degrees. So if we put 90 degree on another 90 degree, then all the right angles will come congruent. Okay. Last one, if two interior angles formed on one side of a transversal of two lines add up to less than two right angles, then the lines produced in that direction intersect each other. What does this means? Means if we draw two lines and a transversal cuts it, okay, transversal cut shapes and the angles formed on one side of the transversal. Okay, one side of the transversal. We have seen the properties of parallel lines. When two lines are given and when two parallel lines are given. When two parallel lines are given, the addition of interior angles of one side of transversal is supplementary, means it is 180. But if it is less than 180, if their addition of that two angles, interior angles, is less than 180, then that lines, if we produce to infinite, means if we produce it to the end, then at some point that two lines intersect each other. That also I have shown you while writing the revision also. So if we produce that two lines, they will go and intersect at some point. So that is the property which is shown by our scientist, that is Euclid. Okay, a property is supposed to be true if it can be proved logically. Okay, whatever the properties are given, यहाँ पे Euclid has this many properties showed. These are some properties. Okay, not all the properties, but whatever the properties here I have shown here, if we prove them logically, means we showed that the interior angles is less than 180. Then if we do their addition and if we extend the lines, produce, they intersect each other, that becomes true. And if that all these things, if we proved it logically, then it is called a theorem. ओके, अगर उसको हमने प्रूफ किया बराबर से कि ये ऐसे ऐसे आया है, देन इट इज कॉल्ड थ्योरम. द लॉजिकल आर्गुमेंट मेड टू प्रूव थ्योरम इज कॉल्ड इट्स प्रूफ. जो भी हम नीचे लिखते हैं आफ्टर थ्योरम गिवन टू प्रूफ एंड देन वी स्टार्ट टू प्रूव द theorem given to us, that logical argument whatever is made there, that is called as proof. Okay, when we are going to prove that a conditional statement is true, its antecedent is called given part and the consequent is the part to be proved. Obviously, whenever if you see a theorem, whatever the antecedent part is there, that is always your given part. Okay, that you have also always you have to consider as the given part, and whatever the consequent is given, means after then whatever it is written there, that part you have to consider as to be proved, means that you have to prove. Okay, there are two types of proofs. Okay, there are two types of proof. First is direct proof and second is indirect proof. Okay, let us give a direct proof of the property of angles made by two intersecting lines. Now see here, we have two different types of proof. Two different types of theorem, in which one we are going to see direct proof, which will give some logical statements and we will get the proof. And second one is the indirect proof. So what are direct proof and indirect proof, we will see here. Okay, theorem is given to us. What is the theorem? The opposite angles formed by two intersecting lines are of equal measures. Below you can see the diagram, so you can understand the values clearly. The opposite angles formed by two intersecting lines. Okay, two lines are intersect each other, and whatever the opposite angles are formed. See here, there are four different opposite angles you can see, that is AOD. If you see here, we get AOD, COB. These are alternate angles. Also, what we are having, AOC and DOB. These are again two alternate angles. Okay, so there are four alternate angles and we have to prove only two. Any two we have to prove. Okay, so what is the given part to us? Line AB and CD intersect at point O such that, okay, two lines are there which intersect each other. This is the given part to us. So we consider AB as one line, CD as second line, and whatever the point of intersection is there, that we called as O. Such that means what? A dash O dash B means what? A, O, B are collinear and C dash O dash D means C, O, D are what? Collinear. They are also collinear, AOB and COD. Then what we have to prove? What we have to prove? That the alternate angles so formed are what here? Equal. whatever the alternate form angles are formed, they are of equal measure. Means, see here I have written all the angles which we have to prove. Angle AOC is equal to angle BOD. Okay, this first angle. See this angle AOC, this one AOC, and this one BOD. This angle and this angle. These two angles we have to show to be congruent. And what is the second? Second is BOC. See here it is BOC. This is the angle BOC and the angle AOD. This angle AOD. This angle and this angle is equal. This angle and this angle is equal. That we have to show here. So what is in proof? Proof what is said? Angle AOC plus BOC. Where is AOC? This is AOC and this is BOC. AOC. We get AOC and BOC. This is formed on a straight line. These two angles, whatever these two angles are there, these two angles are formed on a straight line. And we know that the addition of these two lines are what here? 180 degree. Addition of these two lines, angles, how much they form? They form 180 degree because AOB are collinear, means they lie on a straight line, and the angles formed in between them is how many? That is 180 degree. So angle AOC plus angle BOC is equal to 180 degree. Angles in linear pair. Here here it is written angles in linear pair. It is given as equation number 1. Similarly, on the other side, that is BOC and BOD. These two angles, again, we can see that COD is what here? COD is what here? Collinear lines. They are collinear. So COD is also in straight line. So whatever the angles formed here, COB or BOC and BOD, that both angles, the addition of these two angles is again how much? 180 degree. So that they are what again? The angles in linear pair. So that is given equation number 2. And if we add, if you see both the equations, the right hand side of both the equations is same. That is 180 degree and 180 degree. So if right hand side is same, then we can write down the left hand side is also same. This was also same. This is same, means this is also same. So that only we have written here from 1 and 2. From 1 and 2, left hand side is equal to right hand side, like this. Now if you see, angle BOC and angle BOC is same in both the side. So here BOC get cancelled, here BOC get cancelled, here also BOC get cancelled. After cancelling, what is remain? Angle AOC is equal to angle BOD. Now this is what we have to prove. Angle AOC, to prove first part we have shown here, angle AOC is equal to angle BOD. Okay. So eliminating BOC. After eliminating BOC, we will get angle AOC is equal to angle BOD. Okay. So in this way, we have proved our first. Similarly, in that same manner, we can prove the second angle. So second angle के लिए हम क्या consider करेंगे? We will consider this part, COB and BOD and BOD and DOA. Like this, if we consider this two and this two, this two and this two, again we will get our this remaining part, or like this. So similarly, so whatever the logical things, this whatever we have taken here, these are all logical things. Okay, these are not hypothetical things. So here we have taken some logical things, that this angle becomes 180 degree, this becomes 180 degree. As they both are same, so we put both the angles equal, and BOC is same, so that way cancel each other, and we get these two angles are equal to each other. Angle AOC and angle BOD, like this. Okay. So in this we prove first part. Similarly, we will prove the second part, and we will get the answer. Okay. Sometimes it is necessary to prove the second part. Sometimes it is not necessary. If we write down directly similarly, it means you can find it out the second also. Now this was a direct proof. A direct proof means what? It consists of some logical statements. We can know that yes, this is right. This is 180-degree. This is 180-degree, and after cancelling the equal angles, we get our answer. So this was a logical proof. Now, what is indirect proof? We are going to see indirect proof. So what we are going to see do in indirect proof? We will suppose that the given statement is false. Okay, we will suppose that the given statement is false and we will prove it. After proving that, we will start to prove it. At some point, we will realize that whatever the given part is there and what we are going to prove, that becomes a contradiction, means that becomes different, which is not true according to the given statement. So after that, we will say this is false. Whatever the assumption we have taken, that is false, and then we will say that the given statement is true. So how it works, we will see here. Statement is given, a prime number greater than 2 is odd. We know that. We know that a prime number, whatever the prime number is there, greater than 2, if we take a prime number which is greater than 2, it is odd. Yes, because 2 is only even prime number. After 2, whatever the prime numbers are there, they are all are odd numbers. Okay. So that statement is given in conditional statement. The conditional statement is what? If P is a prime number greater than 2, if P is a prime number greater than 2, then it is odd. Means any number if we take which is greater than 2, then it becomes odd. So that is kept in here in conditional statement. If P is prime number greater than 2, then it is odd. So what is the given part to us? That P is a prime number greater than 2. This is part. Now see here, I have told you that whatever the part after if is there, that is your given part. And whatever the part after then is there, that is your टू प्रूफ पार्ट. तो यहाँ पे if के बाद में क्या है? P is prime number greater than 2. So that will come in given. Given में क्या है फिर? P is prime number greater than 2. That is means what? If P is prime number greater than 2 means what? P has only two factors. Which two factors? 1 and P itself. बराबर? There are two divisors of P. That is 1 and itself means what? P. There are only two divisors of P. And what we have to prove? We have to prove that P is an odd number. Whatever the P is there after the then part what is we are having here, then it is odd. So that we have to prove that P is an odd number. So we are going to prove in indirect proof. So indirect proof what states? It states whatever the given thing is there. Suppose thing is there. Suppose it reverse means opposite we have to suppose there. So what we are going to suppose? Let us suppose that P is not an odd number. Okay, we have to prove that P is an odd number. So let us suppose that P is not an odd number. Agar P odd number nahi hai, then what it is? Then P is an even number, because there are only two types of numbers. If we divide any number, if we have to divide any number into even or odd, then there is only two types. Either it is even or either it is odd. Now here we have supposed that P is not an odd number. If it is not an odd number means what? It should be an even number. Rather than that, it should there is no any number. Okay, so what it becomes? So P becomes an even number. Now if P is an even number, then 2 will be its divisor. Obviously, even number is divisible by 2 anytime. If we take any number, 10,000, 20,000, if we take 1 lakh, 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 50 lakh, whatever number you have to take, even number, if you take any even number, 2 will be its divisor, whatever number it is. So therefore, what we will have a divisor of P is 2. But it is given that P is a prime number greater than 2. Obviously, what is given to us that P is a prime number which is greater than 2, which we have already written in given part. P is prime number greater than 2. 1 and P are the only divisors of P, right? 1 and P are the only divisors of P. And what we have seen in equation number 1, that equation number 1 states that P has one more divisor, that is 2, which is contradiction, which will not happen, because what we are given to us, what is given to us, that only 1 and P are your divisors of P. Rather than that, no such number is divisors of P. But what we have supposed that P is not an odd number, so it becomes an even number. And if even number is there, means 2 is its divisor. Means 1, P and 2. Again, 3 divisors of P are there, which becomes a contradiction to the given statement. Okay, so whatever the given statement is there, it becomes its contradiction. So whatever the assumption we have taken, that is not true. That is not true means what? That P is not an odd, P is not odd is false. Means P jo hai, whatever it is an odd number, that is not true. Not true means what? It is false. Therefore, whatever the assumption we have taken, that is not true, that P is not an odd number, that is false. So P is an odd number. So this proves that a prime number greater than 2 is odd. So what we get the proof? That the prime number which is greater than 2 is always an odd number. So this is the indirect proof. Whatever the two proof is part is there, we consider its contradiction, that we suppose that whatever the given part is there, it is not possible. It we take in opposite direction and we prove according to that. And at some point we come towards the conclusion that whatever the given part is there and whatever two proof part is there, there becomes some conflict in between them, there is some contradiction, and we states that the given statement is true and whatever we have supposed, that is not true. So this is what the indirect proof. Many of the times you have to see the indirect proof, but very few time. Maximum time you have to prove a direct proof only. Okay. Okay. Let us take practice set 1.3. It is very easy and it is completely theoretical part. You don't have to solve anything. Whatever the statements are given, that according to that you have to write it down here. Okay. So very first question is given to us. Write the following statement in if-then form. Okay. Whatever the statement is given, that we have to write in conditional statement form. If-then form is what? Conditional statement form. So the first is given to us. Opposite angles of a parallelogram are congruent. We know that this opposite angles of parallelogram are congruent, but we have to write it in conditional statement. How we are going to write it in conditional statement? If a quadrilateral is parallelogram, then the opposite angles are congruent. Okay. If a quadrilateral is parallelogram, then its opposite angles are quadrilateral. Like this, you are going to write down the answer of first. So if you want to write it down, you can write it down, or if you want to take a screenshot, you can take the screenshot of the answer also. Okay. Now we will see the second example. The diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. Okay, so this is the statement. We have to convert it into conditional statement form. If a quadrilateral is rectangle, then its diagonal are congruent. So what you are going to write down in answer then? If a quadrilateral is rectangle, then its diagonals are congruent. Okay. Sorry for the disturbance. Okay, if a quadrilateral is rectangle, then its diagonals are congruent. Third example. In an isosceles triangle, the segment joining the vertex and the midpoint of the base is perpendicular to the base. We know that in an isosceles triangle, whatever the segment we are drawing from one vertex which joins the midpoint, if you are drawing the midpoint, then it is perpendicular to the base. It is always perpendicular to the base. So that we have to convert it into conditional statement. And how we are going to write? If the triangle is an isosceles triangle, then segment joining the vertex and the midpoint of the base is perpendicular. Okay, segment joining the vertex and the midpoint of the base is perpendicular. So what is the antecedent part? The triangle is an isosceles triangle. Okay, and what is the consequent part? The segment joining the vertex and the midpoint of the base is perpendicular. See, the statement sometimes will look it bigger, but it is not that much hard to write. Okay, so it is only we have to write it if then form. Okay, now write the converse of the following statements. Where we have seen how we are going to write down the conditional statements, and now we have to write down the converse of the given statement. Okay, so first statement is given: the alternate angles formed by two parallel lines and their transversal are congruent. Okay, so here only statement is given, not conditional statement is given, and we have to write it directly in converse part. Okay, so if you want to write it in conditional and then you have to converse it, it is okay, or if you can write it directly the converse, it is also okay. I have written here directly the converse, that if alternate angles made by two lines and its transversal are congruent, then the lines are parallel, right? The alternate angles, whatever the alternate angles formed by two lines and the transversal, if they are congruent, alternate angles, if they are congruent, means what? The given lines are parallel. If the parallel lines are given, then its alternate angle, corresponding angle, interior angles, exterior angles, all becomes congruent. This is conditional statement. And its converse is what? If alternate angle is congruent, then the given lines are parallel, like this. Second, if a pair of interior angles made by a transversal of two lines are supplementary, then the lines are parallel. Okay, this statement is directly given in if then form, so it is becomes very easy to write the answer. So directly जो then के बाद में part है, consequent part है, write it in if part after if part, and whatever the if के बाद में part है, what that write on after the then part. So here directly we will write the question में क्या है, then के बाद the lines are parallel, so it will come here in antecedent that if two parallel lines are intersected by a transversal, okay, transversal, then the interior angles so formed are supplementary. We know that the interior angles of one side of transversal so formed are supplementary, means what? They form an angle of 180 degree. So that is what here it is written. And the last, the diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. Okay, so what we are going to write down, if the diagonals of a quadrilateral are congruent, then the quadrilateral is rectangle. Okay, whatever the diagonal of a quadrilateral is there, if they are congruent, then then we will say that whatever the quadrilateral is there, it is rectangle. Okay, so in this way we have completed our practice set 1.3, and also we have completed our first chapter, that is basic concept in geometry. We have seen all the practice set 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, all the examples, and you can try to solve them. Also you try to solve the solved example. It is very easy.